Hey everyone. So today I'm going to talk about a very important topic that's dementia. So thousands and millions of adults are now suffering from dementia, and it's a pandemic. And we've seen an exponential rise in dementia cases over the past 100 years. And there have been hundreds and millions of dollars invested into dementia research, but all of the drugs have failed miserably. They don't have any benefit, and some of them have been quite dangerous as well. And the reason why drugs will not work for dementia is because if you target one random physiological process, one random protein or enzyme in the body, it's not going to reverse or cure a complicated illness, which is so many risk factors involved. And I'm going to discuss risk factors of dementia in this presentation. I just want to say that grip strength predicts dementia onset, which is really interesting. So, having muscle mass, exercising regularly is so good to prevent dementia and even depression. So, this is a brain scan for someone with a normal brain versus MCI or mild cognitive impairment, which is early onset dementia. And then the last picture is of an Alzheimer's dementia patient's brain. So, what the scan shows us is that people who've got dementia do not get enough energy into all the parts of the brain. So these black areas show that there is literally no glucose going into the brain. And this happens when someone has insulin resistance, which means they've got prediabetes, diabetes, high blood pressure, abdominal obesity, etc. So, really, preventing diabetes and being insulin sensitive is essential to reduce your risk of developing dementia. So, what happens when these cells are starved of glucose because your brain needs glucose as energy? These cells start dying, and that's when you start getting the symptoms of dementia. So, now we're going to go over a few research studies. So, this one is on 162 patients, 3 years study, where they were given a supplement. And this supplement showed improvement in brain volume scans and 76% improvement in memory in the patients. The limitation is that this was funded by the supplement company. Um, and overall, however, it had positive results, and the progression of dementia has slowed significantly. So let's look at what nutrients were there in this supplement. This nutrient solution was full of fat. So it had some essential omega-3 fats, and it had some other vitamins and fat soluble vitamins and things like that. Um, and I just want to talk about the natural sources from which we can get these vitamins and fats. Full fat dairy, animal sourced foods like organ meats and seafood, egg yolks, and yeast. So everything the government tells us is unhealthy, which people have been eating for thousands of years. So I want to say that definitely the low fat government guidelines have played a huge role in increase of diabetes, obesity, and dementia for sure, because we're not having getting enough of these healthy fats in our diet. So let's talk about a few more studies. This is a randomized control trial, so very good evidence on 25 patients who have all been diagnosed with early stage dementia. Okay, 9 months they were given a functional medicine protocol which targeted multiple factors, and everybody in this study reversed their dementia. Here's another study where 35 patients were enrolled, and similarly, um, there were a lot of interventions to improve their overall metabolic health. And many patients reversed their dementia, and some of them slowed down the progression. Here's another study with 251 patients. 76% of patients showed improvement in dementia. And here's another study with 100 case reports of dementia reversal or slowing down. So I just want to mention that if you have been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, which is early stage dementia, then it is possible to completely reverse that dementia. But if you are diagnosed with a late stage disease, then it's likely that it might not improve because this is a very complicated end stage illness. Your brain is not working anymore, and that has taken decades to happen. So It's not always completely reversible. Um, I just wanted to highlight some amazing results from this study. Many of them were return to work and normally functioning again in society. A lot of them started speaking again, remembering their grandchildren again, regaining ability to take care of themselves and play the piano. So, really promising results with functional medicine. Here's another really good study. I'm going to link all of this down below. So, now I'm going to discuss what modalities these studies used, and I'm also going to go a little bit into the risk factors for dementia. So, genetics is definitely a risk factor. So, let's go back to cholesterol. It's very important to understand that our brain is made of fat, and every nerve cell in the body, in the brain and otherwise, is sheathed by something called myelin, which is made of cholesterol. So, that's something really important to understand. And that's why statins have been associated with a lot of cognitive issues, memory problems, depression, peripheral neuropathy, and all of these nerve damage problems because you're depleting cholesterol, an essential nutrient in the body. So, now let's talk a little bit about genetics. ApoE. This is a gene that is associated with dementia. So, there's different types of ApoE 2, 3, and 4. ApoE is essentially a protein. It's like LDL, okay? You know, the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, but it's not actually bad, it's good. What LDL does is transports cholesterol to different parts of the body. What ApoE does is it transports cholesterol to different parts of the brain. So the thing is, if you have an ApoE4 gene, you have a higher risk of dementia. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Okay, so ApoE4 is a gene that is a hunter gatherer type gene. Okay, this gene evolved a long time ago, and the problem with this gene is that it was designed during a time when humans were eating a very high animal fat and protein based diet, which means that they were very used to using cholesterol and fat as energy from their diet. So then the brain didn't have to produce much cholesterol, and the liver didn't have to produce much cholesterol. And these people are also at high risk of heart attacks and um, diabetes and things like that. Um, the reason for this is not because they have the gene itself, it's because of the environment that we have today. So people who have this ApoE4 are really good at fat metabolism. Their body is designed genetically to use fat as energy. So they tend to have higher LDL cholesterol because they're using a lot of fat. And also, these people tend to be smarter. So a lot of research has actually shown that people who have this ApoE4 mutation tend to be very smart, very good at university and things like that, and higher heart disease risk, right? So the reason why people with ApoE4 get dementia and heart disease is not because of the gene itself, it's because these people are not designed to eat a high carbohydrate processed diet. That is the Western diet. They are unable to use that much carbohydrates as energy, so they easily develop diabetes. They easily develop, heart disease, dementia, etc. They are designed to use fats as energy, so they are meant to eat a low carbohydrate diet. And if you've got ApoE2 and 3, these evolved later. Okay, so these evolved as humans started doing more agriculture and eating more carbohydrates and grains, etc. So this is really interesting, and this is why I think we need to individualize treatments based on people's genetics and where they come from. So if you have got ApoE 2 and 3, you can eat more carbohydrates without developing all the problems associated with it. But if you've got an ApoE 4, then a low carbohydrate, high fat diet is essential for you to prevent any health outcomes, poor health outcomes. So, what I recommend is healthy seasonal carbohydrates and exercise. And these carbohydrates, it should depend on where you live and where you come from and what you can tolerate. Um, Whatever it is, stress, artificial light, excess processed food, sugar, cookies, and fruits from all over the world. throughout the year, non seasonal from different countries. That doesn't make any sense for our body. So that's not something I would recommend. So I already talked about this. Dementia is basically diabetes of the brain because your brain is starved of glucose. And if you've got abdominal obesity and sleeping problems like sleep apnea, what happens is then you are getting reduced oxygen to the brain. So each time you're getting reduced oxygen to the brain, you have higher risk of dementia. So, reducing risk factors for dementia. The main thing is ensure that you are insulin sensitive. And you can do a bunch of tests to check for this: normal blood sugars, HbA1c, low triglyceride, high HDL, HOMA-IR, etc. Reducing stress is absolutely essential. So, daily meditation, spending time in nature, reduce using phone and social media. Another factor is social activity, community, mental stimulation, regular exercise, muscle building exercise, sleeping well, 7 to 8 hours a day. So, each night that you do not sleep properly increases your risk of dementia. Get enough sunlight, reduce exposure to environmental toxins. So, coming to environmental toxins, I just want to quickly go through all the drugs that cause dementia and depression. I'm not going to read the entire list, but as you can see, statin, antidepressants, and antacid tablets, right? These are really, really commonly prescribed medications. And this is definitely a huge factor for why people with depression have a much higher risk of dementia because the drug that is given for depression itself causes dementia. Um, so let's talk a little bit about diet. Um, so a lot of these studies I talked about used a high healthy fat, paleo or ketogenic diet with organic fatty meat, fish, eggs, and vegetables. And they also looked at all the blood tests and gave any nutritional supplements to those who needed it. If someone had vitamin B12, they were given B12 deficiency. If they had someone vitamin D deficiency, they were given those specific supplements. They were given some gut healing nutrients, and any allergens were avoided. One herb that's extensively studied for dementia is ginkgo biloba. So that's worth trying as well. Exercise. So, exercise, sleep, and stress, very, very important. So, at least walking every day, strength training, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, treating sleep apnea, so, so important. And stress management. I cannot emphasize on how important it is to reduce and manage stress as well as keep yourself engaged intellectually. And they also included some detoxification processes. So, exposure to heavy metals can actually increase your risk of dementia. So, that's another factor. And then inflammation from chronic infections were also treated in this protocol. So, as you can see, these studies that reverse dementia used a lot of protocols to target different causes of dementia. And what I want to say is there is hope. It is possible to reverse dementia, but it is not always possible if you've been diagnosed late, if your family member has got late onset dementia. So, hope this was useful and good luck.